What's going on, everybody? Appreciate you tuning in for a little post game for the Suns and what was another really, really tough one. Lose by almost 40 points tonight, 133-95 of the Warriors. Never really kind of in this thing from half on, and kind of another rough, disappointing performance as any hope of that kind of playing is kind of gone at this point. Connor, you're there. Now, full disclosure, a lot of the times when we have these pods, we talk a little bit beforehand. We kind of know where things are going. You mentioned things that happen in the post game that you want to talk about. We didn't do this for this one. You just said there was a lot of stuff going on that was really kind of, there's some tea at least, or there was some interesting stuff happening in the post game. I'm going to hear it fresh just like everyone else. I can't wait to kind of find out what exactly was going on, because maybe, hopefully, they showed a little bit more fight or some more spirit in the postgame than what they actually had on the court tonight, because it wasn't pretty out there. But the floor is yours, Connor. Please tell us exactly what was going on there in the locker room after the game.
Yeah, let me stop you real quick because there actually is a mathematical chance that the Suns can make the play-in. Highly unlikely, but
Excuse me.
yeah,
I'm sorry. You're right. Let me back up. They're still technically alive. Yes.
yeah, they would need to go 3-0, and the Mavs have to go 0-3 in their last 3 games. So there's still a little bit of hope. But I mean, walking into that locker room, it seems like all hope is dead. I will say that we only talked to Bud, Book, and Brad, and all of them were under 3 minutes. It just seemed like they didn't want to talk at all. A bunch of, short answers. I mean, more specifically, the players, they were just kind of like it's like they didn't want to be there. They wanted I almost feel like, because we were talking to Brad first, I almost feel like Book was kind of trying to get dressed really quick so he maybe didn't have to talk, but he also hasn't talked to us in the last like 3 losses. So, he needed to talk to us. And just last time we talked, which was another disappointing loss, I kind of said that I really think that the Suns hadn't really built a culture or an identity, and I was really hard on that fact. And Look kind of leaned into that notion a little bit today. He was asked, what was the difference between, the Warriors and Phoenix tonight. And he said simply, the Warriors have stuff to play for, and the Suns kind of don't right now. And one thing he really said that caught a lot of us off guard is that the Suns don't have any winning habits, which, it's just simple. Like, really not much to say right there. Suns just don't have any winning habits. And that comes with culture, that comes with identity, comes with coaching. A lot of coaching talk recently, and coaches are very responsible for culture and identity of the team.
Yeah. Winning habits, I think, does come from coach. It also comes kind of from veteran leadership, which is also another thing that a lot of people think this team. I mean, it's been a knock on KD kind of his entire career, is that he's one of the all-time great players, but he doesn't necessarily always have the strongest leadership skills on the court. I think Booker has shown that in his career, that he's had that as well, but it does kind of feel, I mean, we've touched on Bud a ton, but it does kind of feel like they are missing a little bit of a hole of that, what Chris Paul brought to this team, which was just kind of that dog that also would kind of get everyone up to where they needed to be. That's not great at this point of the year to come out and be like, we're not getting that, because that basically is also saying there's not the leadership you need from players at that point too, right?
Yeah, and what's ironic about that is that, KD, he really doesn't inspire a lot of that kind of dog mentality. He's more kind of a laid back killer. And I feel like the entire Suns roster has kind of adopted that in a way. You could argue that KD doesn't really inspire a lot of people, but from the looks of it, he's kind of inspired that laid back mentality all throughout the roster. And, they do look more locked in when KD is actually playing. They've looked completely uninspired since he's gone down. But yeah, it's a lot of people, and it's people say that, Book has kind of adopted this KD mentality. Yeah, he's not a killer. Well, it might be true. It might be becoming true.
There's more and more evidence growing to kind of point to it. Here's the thing. KD can play that kind of laid back game, and it doesn't kind of really throw him off. He's going to get his every single night, do his thing. but that's unique to basketball players. The majority of basketball players have to get that energy and have to get up in order to kind of play and compete at that level. And if everyone else kind of adopts that mentality of kind of being laid back and kind of just in coast mode, everybody's coast mode is not the same. KD's coast mode is levels above most people in this league. And then when he's not on the court, like he hasn't been, and then you get this kind of situation. The other half, I mean, we've touched on it. It is the ongoing favorite question of mine for you at this point, but it becomes more relevant now after the Nuggets decide to clean house, even though they are in contention for the 3 seed. They get rid of Mike Malone. They are going to bring back their GM. Memphis gets rid of their head coach a week ago. You've stayed pat this entire time saying that Coach Bud will have one more year. Where are you still there? Is that still your belief at this point? I mean, where are you at now?
No, yeah, it's certainly hard to kind of keep that mindset. And, ironically, we talked to Steve Kerr before the game. And of course, you're going to ask the coaches about when another coach gets fired. And he brought up a really good point. He said, back then when you had more long tenured coaches, the teams weren't owned by billionaires or billionaire corporations. Nowadays, all these coaches are a lot more expendable because it's really not that much money coming out of the owners' pockets. So that kind of changed my mindset a little bit, and I'm kind of leaning towards like, especially Matt Ishbia, super aggressive, probably the most aggressive owner in the league. Who cares? Like who cares if he lets go of Bud? Right now, I feel like, Suns fans might appreciate him for letting go of Bud, which is pretty crazy to say at this point in the season. So it's, yeah, I mean, I did stand pat for a little while, but I'm kind of starting to lean the other way. I think now when you let go of Bud, it makes a little bit more sense than it did maybe a month ago.
I saw something on ESPN that was saying it was something like of the last 10 NBA finals, all but 2 of the coaches that had made the finals now have been fired. Like, it is insane how fast franchises are willing to be like, this ain't doing, we're pressing the abort button and going to something else. It works for some teams. Normally, turnover like that does not work. Like the most successful teams they're winning games too, so you're not really going to turn over a lot of stuff, but it's tough. Anytime you start really kind of cycling through players, making trades, getting rid of coaches and stuff like that, consistency goes a long way in this league, but so do results. Results go a little bit further, I guess at the end of the day, and there have not been that many under Coach Bud at this point.
Yeah, and what sucks about that, I'll just cut you off real quick. What sucks about that is that's kind of been the story of Book's career. He really hasn't had much consistency. He's had Bud is like his 8th coach of his career. He's played 10 seasons, something like that. So if you keep Bud around, I think the best thing to do when you keep Bud around is that you get a little bit more continuity, but you're still going to turn over the roster. You're still going to trade KD and Book. I mean, and Brad allegedly. So I don't know. It's a mess right now.
So ESPN was also talking about 2 different options today with the Suns, and I guess I hadn't heard anything of it. I don't know where it's ESPN. I'm not sure where they're getting the kind of their sources on and stuff like that. But one of them was saying specifically that now there's a chance that the Suns would not move off of KD this offseason, that they would look at that the best interest for them is to continue pairing him with Booker. That was the first, because everything outside of Herod, Shams, everyone else had been reporting for months now that it's basically a done deal, that both sides know that this is going to be a breakup and that they're perfectly fine with it, that, they kind of understand where that is, the situation. Can you see a situation at all next year where KD is back with the Suns at this point?
I surely wouldn't hate it. I really feel like, Book and KD work pretty well together. It's just a matter of who you have around them, and we said this a few weeks ago, like imagine Brad's contract dispersed into a good amount of, like 2 or 3 two-way players around Book and KD. That would be great. I feel like you really shouldn't give up on Book and KD right now. and you maybe give it another go, see how they look without Brad. Um, obviously, KD might have a different opinion on that, considering that they threw him in trade talks in the middle of the season and blindsided him. But I don't know. I think this duo works. It's just a matter of who you have around them. And if you can work on trying to get off Brad before you even think about getting off KD and see if you can turn Brad into a good, decent roster around booking KD, I feel like that would work out a lot more than just blowing it up and trading both KD and Bradley Beal.
The other thing that I saw, and this is the first, there's so many weird little caveat rules in the NBA and kind of how you can manage salaries and kind of change kind of the outlook on some things. Um, but it had been reported that the Suns were possibly considering utilizing a delayed stretch, which is another term I had never heard of before. And it's basically just expanding out Bradley Beal's contract on releasing him to where you'd pay 40 mil this next year against the cap, but then after that it drops down to 19 mil, and you just do that for more years than kind of what the contract originally was lengthened for. That feels like, I mean, an emergency break glass, and you're really kind of now just delaying the problem in some ways. But the other side of that is that does free up some more space. Years earlier, they would, have basically about 20 million more cap space in 2 years than they would have had. Does that make sense for this team? Does do it a deal like that basically you're punting on next season because you're still having 40 million against the cap, but the year after that, like I said, is there any world where they should be building 2 seasons from now at this point, basically with this roster?
Yeah, and real quick, I think the idea behind that would be to, increase flexibility. By doing that, you bring the Suns below the second apron, and then so that way you're not, suffering from those second apron death sentences. Yeah, exactly. And so you're able to be more flexible on the trade market, able to be more flexible on free agency, and that's what that would do. I feel like that would be like your last resort. Like if no one in the league is willing to take Bradley Beal, which I don't blame them, who would right now? If no one in the league is going to take Bradley Beal, I think that's something that you need to think of doing. I still think you should really give it a go. There might be some desperate teams that, are looking at, as I said that, I just kind of thought like, no, I don't think anyone would want to take Bradley Beal. Let me cut that thought.
It's a tough sell.
Yeah, it's a very tough sell, but yeah, I do think that that's a last resort situation.
They are coming up on that one time a year where miracle things can happen when the postseason hits and teams that have expectations that they fall short and then they do the panic trade button. This is the time where you watch certain teams that have expectations, and if it doesn't work out, you have the opportunity of kind of offloading kind of these we've seen it before. I mean, that's kind of like how the Lakers wound up with Russell Westbrook. Like you see guys that have these massive contracts can get shipped, and if a team falls short of kind of expectations a little bit. You want to dive into tonight's game at all? I mean, like I said, it felt like it was kind of out of hand at halftime. Booker had a good first half going, but I mean, just like watching it, if you took Grayson Allen and Booker off of the Suns in the first half, everyone else shot 5 of 25, and it just felt like there was not a lot else going on there. And at that point in the second half, it felt like it was out of control. But did anyone kind of spark your interest? Anything kind of get your attention a little bit out there?
I'll tell you what really stuck out to me is kind of the difference between the teams. You know, Golden State has this high powered, functional offense. You look at them, everyone's moving, even off the ball. If someone's running a pick and roll at the top of the key, you have, your off ball players setting like a pin down screen or you have Steph like running the baseline or something. You compare that to Phoenix's offense where it's just Book takes a screen from Nick Richards, and then after that, the rest of the 4 players just stand around and see what Book's going to do. And I've quibbled with Bud's kind of random offense ideology all season. I've had some media members kind of talk me down into, questioning that, but I don't get this offensive organization that, Bud comes out with a lot. It makes for a lot of unorganized, stale offensive possessions. And you see what happens. Like the Warriors are, moving and they score 133 points. And like if your offense stalls out, it's going to look even worse when you're not playing defense like the Suns are doing. So that's what really stuck out to me. And another thing that stuck out to me is that, I feel like Book is kind of the only one playing with any sort of desperation. I do think Brad is checked out. I think Brad's been checked out for probably the last month or so. Um, and there's just, other players on the roster that, they might, have stretches here and there where they do, play with some aggression, but overall, I think Book is kind of the only one that really thinks, and it might be the competitive spirit in him. I think he's the only one that thinks that if there's at least 1% chance that they could make the play in, he's going to go all out. And that's it. Like, it's only Book.
Two things. One, like, they could be completely eliminated from the playoffs, and Booker's still the type of dude that he just wants to control the guy in front of him. Like, he's going to be competitive. He's got that edge, I think, regardless. And two, Bradley Beal's, like, if you're watching, he's never been good defensively, but you want to talk about checking out the last month? It has been like, it has gotten just offensively bad. Like, I mean, it has gotten really rough on that end of the court. And I don't want to give him a pass in some ways. He has dealt with a lot of wild, like, just the rumors and everything else, but, like, there is some level of professional, there's some level of effort that you would expect, at least, like, the bare minimum. And he's not the only one, but it's more glaring when you also take into effect the contract that he's sitting on and then still kind of get the amount of effort that you're getting from him right now. It's tough. It's a tough watch right now.
Yeah, and that kind of reminds me of, how tense the locker room was today. We talked to him in a scrum in the locker room, and, a media member asked him, like, it kind of felt like you weren't being aggressive. He framed it, he said, I could be wrong, but it kind of felt like you weren't being aggressive offensively. And Brad said, I just think that's your opinion. And which, I mean, yeah, to each their own, but he did only shoot 8 shots today. Like he's not being aggressive offensively. He might be saying,
a guy that's really shy and pulling the trigger either.
Exactly. I mean, and you look down the stat sheet, what Book had 17 shot attempts, Ryan Dunn had 10 shot attempts. If I'm Brad, I'm trying to get, 15, 16 shots up, especially if, there's really nothing to lose here. So it's like, I don't know. I mean, he's been pretty good to media this year, and just, I don't know, might be a little oversight from him right there.
It's a quick turnaround, and they just happen to be playing a pretty good team here tomorrow night. Thunder are coming off kind of a little bit of a revenge game today against the Lakers as they put up, I think, like 130 something on them. And any hope? I mean, like you said, technically they're not dead yet. 3-0. They're not. This is the Princess Bride. They're not dead. They're only mostly dead, which is partly alive. Is that what we're gonna say right now with the Suns, or are we? Where are we at? I guess with this, because like Thunder don't. I mean, on the plus side, Thunder don't have anything to play for at this point. They've locked up the 1 seed. Maybe they'll sit everybody. It is the back of a back-to-back for them. Maybe, right? That's
I guess, but even then, I would say that their second and third units are like only a little bit worse than the Suns' worst units right now.
So. Painfully true. That is. That is not. Yeah.
I would say that Phoenix is partly alive for the next 20 hours until the ball tips tomorrow. So we thought it was bad today. It's going to get a lot worse tomorrow.
Well, at least for one more night. As I was corrected, you were right. And at least for one more night, Suns fans can live with the dream of possibly making the play-in. So I guess we'll check in with you tomorrow night, and hopefully vibes will be a little bit higher. They can't be much lower. So we'll see where they are when we get there, man.
I doubt it.
All right. Have a good night, Connor. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I'll see you later.